for example, this week's weather pattern, where remnants of powerful Typhoon Nori in the West Pacific will lead to an intense blast of frigid air in the eastern U.S. next week. What is left of Nori is set to slam into the Bering Sea, quite possibly bringing Alaska one of its strongest storms ever this weekend. Howling winds and huge waves will be the biggest impacts Saturday and Sunday. The energy from this storm will then give an extra charge to the jet stream, leading to a large trough in the east and allowing cold air to surge back in. Temperatures will only reach the 30s for many through the middle of this week. And of course, Mother Nature can't leave out a couple of threats for snow for the middle and end of next week. We'll continue to cover the latest on this Arctic blast.
Is going to be an extremely powerful storm in the Bering Sea in the next 24 hours, and this storm will have influence on the pattern across North America as we head toward the upcoming week. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Bernie Rayno. Here's a satellite picture, and well, boy, you could see the storm that I'm talking about right here, right across Kamchatka Peninsula right now, or the storm itself is east of there. The mechanics of this storm, pretty simple. Strong upper level feature and lots of colder air coming southward from the eastern part of Russia. We had tropical moisture from what was a super typhoon Nori. That came northward. The upper level feature marked with the X came south and east, and everything kind of came together across the southwestern part of the Bering Sea. And this is what we're going to be looking at in the next 24 hours. Just a tremendous storm in the western part of the Bering Sea. We may approach all-time record low pressures for this part of the Pacific. The record is, I believe, 926 millibars. So back, I believe it was in 1977. We're going to get awfully close to that in the next 24 hours. There's going to be tremendous impacts with this storm in the Bering Sea. And while you may not think that this storm will have any influence on the weather in North America, you'd be incorrect. Because of the strength of this storm, it will have a downstream response. And I'll show you what I mean. Let me go back to the satellite picture here. And if you think of the jet stream as a long piece of string, it's all connected. And what happens is when you get a storm of this intensity, it's like taking that string and pulling down on it. So instead of the jet stream being from west to east, you end up getting huge waves out ahead of that storm, ridges and troughs. And of course, whenever you get a jet stream like that, where you're getting big troughs and big ridges, you run the risk of having quite a bit of extreme weather. And that's what's going to happen across North America next week. So we're going to be building this deep trough in the Pacific. The downstream response is to send the jet stream much farther north than it normally would be across Alaska. And whenever you get that, you get this across the United States. There's the big ridge in response to the big trough with that storm in the western Pacific. So you get a big ridge across the Yukon territories and Alaska, and that forces the jet stream southward. And it's not just the forcing of the jet stream southward, but it's also the forcing of what we, and everybody knows this term obviously, the polar vortex. Now the polar vortex usually up here in the poles, but with this kind of pattern, it forces it southward. So as we head in the next week, we're going to be looking at the polar vortex being right across James Bay, and because of that, you're going to be forcing all of this Arctic air southward into the plains and the Midwest. That's where the core of the cold is going to be in the early part of the week. The other concern along the edges of Arctic air masses, you typically do get some snow, and that's what we're going to be seeing as that cold air comes down. Sunday and Sunday night, anywhere from Edmonton, Calgary, then into central and let's say central parts of Montana. Then the snow will be streaking eastward right along Interstate 80 across Nebraska and all the way into Iowa late Monday night. So this could be impacting cities such as Omaha, Des Moines, and then we're going to have to keep a close eye out on Chicago. That would be Monday night into Tuesday. We're going to have a special video on that. The other problem is this pattern isn't going to be changing much. In fact, as we head into the latter half of the week, the cold air is going to be spreading toward the East Coast. This is also very bad news, by the way, for California, because it'll stay warm and dry. They need the rain. They're not going to get any over the next 10 days. So then as this Arctic air mass spreads to the south and east, you're going to have to start worrying about the possibility of storminess along the East Coast late next week. Again, we have a special video on that as well. So this one storm does have implications. Now, it's not the only reason that this pattern is occurring, but it is one of the factors in it. Here's the spread of the cold air, just so you know. Early part of the week, it's going to be coming down across the northern plain states. You're going to get temperature departures here about 20 to 25 degrees below normal. So that's temperatures mostly in the 20s for highs. Then it will spread toward the East Coast as we get into Wednesday and Thursday. Look for the possibility of a storm somewhere in the Northeast Thursday into Friday. The other thing you have to worry about with all this cold air is lake effect snow. That will start getting going as well behind this cold air. So across the upper Midwest, we're looking for that to be Monday night into Tuesday. Then we could be looking at a Tuesday night into Wednesday off of Lakes Erie and Ontario. So what happens in the Western Pacific has implications in North America. And with the polar vortex coming down next week is going to feel, and I'm afraid, look a lot like winter.